name is Eddie C, and welcome to My Positive Podcast. I'll bring you positive stories of people from all walks of life, because everyone has a story to tell. Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to MPP. I'm your host, Eddie C, and this is My Positive Podcast. Before I start to talk a little bit about my guest, I just want to thank you all for tuning in each week and listening to the shows when they come out. We've had a few delays because of summertime. Sometimes it's hard to catch hold of people, so one show might be a little later than the other one. But we're still continuing. We appreciate your support. We appreciate your ideas and suggestions. We take those all in consideration. And you can touch base with me on my Facebook page, My Positive Podcast. You can also contact me via the website, mypositivepodcast.com. I'm also on Twitter, and you can also reach me via Instagram. So all the social media possibilities are there to touch base and spread your positive energy with me. Anyway, I've got, once again, 3 great guests. I've got a guy who's now living at the moment in Sri Lanka because he got stuck there with the COVID situation, but he still keeps a positive attitude and has been able to be prosperous in what he does in his work. I have another friend of mine, and she's like a multi-talented person. She sings, she dances, she's writing, and she'll tell you a lot more about her story as well. And then my third guest, we've known each other since we were in elementary school together. And he's now has a chain of restaurants in the States. So if you're interested in their stories, tune in and stay positive. My name is Eddie C, and you're listening to My Positive Podcast. Well, ladies and gentlemen, my first guest on today's show, which is based on enthusiasm, is a buddy of mine. We met each other at the time when he was actually working at Pearl Percussion in Europe, and he did public relations there. And outside of that, just a wonderful guy to know, and he's now doing some other work, which he'll tell you more about later in our conversation. Please give a warm welcome to Mr. Jeroen Breider. Hey, buddy, how you doing? I see you're stuck somewhere over there overseas in I guess you could say COVID heaven, because you've been there for some months.
It's brilliant over here. Since February, I left the Netherlands, and first in Dubai, and now I'm here for 11 weeks now in Sri Lanka. And at the moment, I'm here in Aragambe, which is on the east side of Sri Lanka, which is more or less like a surfers paradise. So lots of people are coming here to catch the wave.
Right. And I hear the birds and the waves in the background. Yeah. So that's a beautiful location from what I see on the video. Of course, my audience can't see that, but believe me, it's very beautiful where he's at right now. Mm-hmm. I know we met at Pearl, Pearl Europe. Yeah. Can you tell a little bit about, your background, how you got there and what you're doing, now?
Yeah, I mean, like you, I think we were from young, we were already in music, and my father is a musician, or not as a profession, but he played lots of instruments. And so I got at an early age already confronted with his musical lifestyle, so to say. Mm-hmm. And one of the instruments he also played was organ, and especially in church.
Okay.
So as a little boy, I sat on the Sunday afternoon, I sat on the organ bench next to my dad, pulling and pushing the organ registers for more or less sound, so to say.
Okay.
And I think at that time I was maybe 4 or 5. And that was my introduction into music and in performing, so to say.
All right.
And but I knew one thing as well, that the church organ was a little bit too dull for me. I wanted an instrument with some more action.
Okay.
And therefore, when I was able to choose an instrument, like I think I was back then like 8 or 9, I chose drums.
Okay.
And then at the age of 9, I started ordering all kinds of catalog of drum brands, cymbal brands. Back then, beginning of the 80s, I think it was 1983 when I was 9. We didn't have the internet yet, so I needed to do it the analog way, so to say. So, and at that age, I read all those magazines just before I went to sleep. I put them on my pillow, put on my little bed lamp, and then I imagined how it would be to play such a huge drum kit that I saw there in this catalog.
Okay.
And so next to that, of course, on the inside cover of the magazines, most of the time there were all those famous drummers depicted playing in those world famous bands, and I of course imagined and fantasized how it would be to be such a player and to be on stage.
Okay, wow.
And one of those catalogs, and I still have this. I have most of those catalogs. Still have those. One of those was as well the Pearl Drums catalog out of 1983. And funny enough, 21 years later, I work for Pearl Drums, and my childhood dream more or less came through.
Wow.
Building drum kits, photographing them, making the catalog actually myself, and doing artist relations. So how magical can life be?
Wow, that's quite a story, man. I didn't know that. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I met you as because I've been an endorser for them for many years. But I remember when you came there, and I said, you were the new guy to the whole family, the Pearl family, because I had already been with them for quite some time, actually since the beginning when they started doing their big percussion line. So, now you've actually have changed and gone in a completely different direction, because how long ago was it that you left Pearl?
It was in January 2018 when I started my own company or own business. So, I worked there from November 2004 till January 2018. So 13 years. And
wow.
Although it was some sort of a childhood dream or boy dream come through, after working there for so many years, I also felt, is this it? When you work for a company, it looks like sometimes you're turning every year in the same circle,
right,
and doing the same kind of things. And I thought, maybe there could be something more in life than just this.
Yeah, so you wanted to have a new adventure, of course, which is, I think this is what a lot of us do, that as we progress and get older, we get stuck into maybe one thing, and it can become a bit of a, like you say, a circle that you think you're never going to get out of. But that's the wonderful thing about, doing your own thing at a certain point, that you're able to grow from it and achieve other dreams and do other start to do other goals that you like to do. So that's fantastic, man.
And a big how shall I put it? A big wake-up call was also because my mother passed away way too early in 2005.
Yeah, I remember that, man. I remember that. Yeah, that was a heavy time for you, I remember.
Yeah, and of course, my father was or worked for 40 years for the same employer, and financially and supporting his family, of course. But I also saw that my father, his dream was to spend much more time or quality time with my mother after his retirement. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, she passed away 8 years before he retired. So, and that also gave me like a wake-up call to say, well, if I live my life, I have to live it now and not wait years and years before you really start living your life.
Absolutely.
And also, my father in 2010, he had to undergo a bypass operation, so really heavy one. And that was more or less my second kind of wake-up call, where I said, okay, now is really the time to think of how I need to do it differently than my parents did it or than my father did it.
Okay.
And it took me more or less 5 years, because I know that I was on a retreat in 2013 and already knowing that I wanted to do something else, but I didn't know what.
Okay.
And then in 2017, there was like a big change in my life. First, in the beginning of 2017, I got to know a very special energy spray, which brought me in lots more positive energy, and I also lost, or I was liberated from my so-called negative voice, which also said to me, "Oh, Jeroen, you're not so good. You're not good enough for this. Why should you do this? What would other people say if you do it?" Or all those kind of limiting beliefs, so to say, which this negative voice is always saying to you, or at least saying to me. I don't know how it's with other, but I think lots of us have this internal negative voice. As I was kind of liberated from this voice, the world changed for me in a positive way, and things started to enroll itself for me. Things that I hoped for a long time suddenly appeared in my life. And there was such an eye-opening experience that I thought, okay, I'm going to try this year to see if keep working for Pearl is going to bring me good energy. If not, I will quit my job. And later that year, in August 2017, there was like kind of another project where I'm still working on now, where I had kind of gut feeling, wow, this is so small now, but can have much more potential in future. And therefore, I more or less, that was kind of the breaking point in saying, okay, this is the moment I quit my job and start my own journey.
Oh, wow. Can you tell us a little bit more about the spray and the products that you started to get involved in, that was the game changer for you?
Well, this I mean, you can see it, but for the audience, I got gray hair early. I think it was on my, when I was 30, I already got my first gray hairs. And then I think when I was middle of 40, my hairdresser said to me, "Why don't you color your hair?" And then I said to her, "Okay, but when I find something where I can get my original hair color back with, I'm going to use it." And that was back in 2016, 17, when I found this spray. And people told me this spray will bring you good energy, and it also helps you to regenerate. And even you can get your original hair color back. And then I was kind of triggered. So I started using it for outer appearance, so to say. But then after using it 2 months, I not only saw that some of my gray hairs already turned completely into brown hairs again, but also I noticed after 2 months that after spraying the spray, it changed something internally.
Okay, wow.
And that internal change was, as I said, even a more life-changing thing, by losing this negative voice, but also by noticing that the colleague I worked with for the last 10 years, where my relationship was a little bit kind of a struggle to communicate with him, that the communication turned from one day to the other 180 degrees. And then that I didn't need to bite my tongue first 10 times before I could say something to him, but that I could right away say what I wanted from him, and that he also responded in a much more positive and friendly way. And that was to me already such a miracle that I thought, wow.
Oh, that's fantastic, man. That's once again, I like I said, I know you from the time when you were working there in the beginning, and I've seen you developed over the years, because, you're some years younger than me. And I noticed with your new, you're busy now with a couple of new adventures that have actually turned out quite well for you. You're doing something like with I don't know, I guess I call it a sort of a Bitcoin kind of thing now as well. Are you, I've sat in one of your meetings to get, because I was curious about it. And can you tell my audience a bit about that as well?
Well, what I'm doing has something to do with crypto, but the main thing what I'm working on is blockchain. And I think lots of us have heard about Bitcoin, but the platform, so to say, the technology where Bitcoin is developed on is called blockchain. And I think that's my mission, that a lot of people don't know yet what blockchain can mean. And in my personal life now, since over 3.5 years, blockchain has meant that this technology I can build up a passive income with. And therefore, I can now also sit here on the beach of Aragambe in Sri Lanka because I know my money is coming every month. And rather than trading, what a lot of people do when you buy a Bitcoin or another crypto coin, you hope to buy it at a very low price and sell it at a higher price. But then once you sold this Bitcoin or this other cryptocurrency, you have to buy new ones at this higher rate. So actually, what is your gain? And this is something where you can use your smartphone for. You install 2 simple apps, and then you are more or less connected to the blockchain, and then you can start earning money with the blockchain.
And is that in a short-term period, or I mean, what do you consider because it's all for me. I mean, I'm an old school guy, and I think a lot of my listeners are probably old school as well. I mean, how is that compared to, let's say, the money in the pocket?
I mean, I'm that old school guy as well. I mean, I've worked in the music industry as well, and as we all know, that's all analog, which is good, of course. We all need music. But if you look at new technologies, and there are a lot over the years. I mean, if you only look at internet, who would thought in 1995, when more or less internet started rolling out for the masses, that we would walk around with an iPhone or with a phone, with a smartphone, which we would be connected to the internet 24 hours a day, and the internet is telling via a Google Maps app where to go or where to eat or.
Well, it's also responsible for our conversation right now as well.
Yeah, exactly. And now there is something new, which is more or less second generation internet. Internet 2.0, so to say, which is called blockchain, and that will even change our lives even more. And I sometimes compare it with electricity. When electricity was born, everybody wanted to know how does it happen? How can this happen? But nowadays we just accept electricity is there. We know when we plug it in, when we plug a device in, we know what it brings us. So, and this is the same with blockchain because it's new. Lots of people think, I need to know how it works. But if you just know that you can generate passive income with it, why do you want to know how every bit and bob works? You only need to know what it brings for you, and that's enough. And that's more or less what I show people, how you install those simple apps on your phone, how you can put coins into that app because it's kind of a digital new saving account, and then you can get guaranteed income for the next years. And with this app, you generate like a guaranteed income for the upcoming 10 years.
I have a question on that. Since you're busy with it, so you can build up. You're saying that you can build up a certain amount of let's say income that's coming in, but let's say a person wants to retire, and at a certain point, how do they assess their money? And let's say at a certain point, if they're not here, how does that get passed on to family members or something?
Yeah, that's a good one that you say that, because this investment also is something which you can leave for your future generations, to your children, to your grandchildren. So in that sense, if you are building up passive income, it's something which you can pass on. And how beautiful is that? Sorry, I forgot the question.
Well, I was saying is, if a person passes away, but you just answered my question, in fact, by saying it is a passive income, so it continues as you go on. Okay.
Yes.
But is it something is it a system where you have to constantly invest in? Whereas like a savings account is like, you put your money in the bank, and after so many years, you get a certain rent. It builds up like a pension funds or a life rent. Or
you can compare it to this. Yes. You have like a digital saving account, which is kind of the app on your phone. You put in your coins in there, and then your coins are duplicated throughout the years. And the nice thing is that you don't need to wait for a year to have a payout, but that happens every month.
Okay, and how is that? How is that according to, let's say, taxes and all? Because it's a digital form. How does that work with the?
Therefore, we have, of course, tax advisors who are more specialized in that. But in this case, the thing is that you are renting. You more or less renting hardware and software. That means that if you are a business owner, or if you have a company, you could even see this as a kind of a software license. And so those costs that you are making are the same for tax as a software license you're buying from any kind of company.
So you're paying for a software license, but you're not paying for the income you're making.
Well, of course, if you make income, and that's with everything, you have to pay income tax.
Okay, so that's with this app as well. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
I've got this is quite an interesting subject, and I would love to go into detail with you once about that when you get back from your paradise area that you're in right now. But I've got one last question for you.
I'll come back. Why should I return into Europe if paradise is here? But anyway, we'll see what future brings.
Okay, buddy. Well, listen, we're coming to the close of our conversation. I've really been enjoying talking with you. But I have one more question, which is the theme for this show, and it's enthusiasm. And I would like to know, what does enthusiasm mean for you?
Yeah, enthusiasm means for me that you're overflowing with positive energy, and without any effort, you can send a message to other people, which is picked up by them in with a very good vibe.
And that's it.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, of course, when you are positively loaded with, that's something, of course, where I had to work on the last 3.5 years as well, to always think positive. Also, when you have a negative thing, how can you turn it around into something positive? And so therefore, I've also worked on my money mindset, so to say, the last 3.5 years. And by doing that, it changed whole my life in a positive way. So I think if you are enthusiastic, if you are passionate about something, if you feel, go into that direction, it might feel very scary, or maybe a lot of people in your environment say, oh, don't go there. But just do it. If it's your feeling, go there, and you will find, and it's with me as well, it was kind of a 2.5 year long struggle where I had self-doubt and lots of people saying, oh, you know what you're doing, I don't believe in it. But if you believe in yourself, and if you believe, you find people who can help you and support you, and eventually you will find your way and come into this flying wheel, which I also found after 2.5 years. You come in some sort of a flying wheel, and that doesn't stop moving. So once you're in there, it's a beautiful feeling. And then you suddenly know why you have invested so much time and energy in a certain thing, in your passion, and then it's all worth it. And it's not about the money, but it's all about this enrichment feeling that you have reached something which you thought about you never could have reached. And that creates a freedom feeling, which I wish for everybody. And then you get enthusiastic.
Well, I'm very glad you say that, because I've been doing it most of my life. So as you know, so
yeah.
I want to thank you so much for taking some time out. And I know you're like 3 hours ahead of us.
3.5 even. Yeah.
And so, but you've got this beautiful weather. You're in a beautiful surroundings, and thanks for sharing that atmosphere of I heard the birds and the waves in the background, and they're still chirping. So enjoy while you're there, man. And I wish you a lot of success with what you're doing with your new adventure. And I'm sure we'll talk to each other when you get back over in Europe again, buddy.
Yeah, thank you very much, Eddie. And you always have been a big inspiration for me as well, because you were also, when I was working at Pearl, one of the sunshines in my life. You are
thank
always there with a smile. You always bring good vibes. So thank you for that. And also thank you, of course, for listening to my story and asking me to tell my story in your podcast. Thank you very much.
All right. And if you have a link, I'll post it into the information so people can get in touch with you about, about what you're doing. And once again, thanks so much, buddy. And we'll definitely meet up when you get back.
Yes, we do for sure.
This is My Positive Podcast with Eddie C. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, my next guest is someone that I've known for actually quite some years. We worked together many years ago on a project that I did for schools, which was called the Global Village. And we developed a real good friendship over the years, from time to time whenever she was in Holland. She's lived in Poland. She's lived, of course, in the Netherlands, Germany. She has her own YouTube channel for Polish and English-speaking countries. She's not only a dancer, she's also an abstract painter, a recording artist. And she's actually written a series called the Oracle Series. Please welcome my next guest, Miss Joanna Pilatowicz. If I said that right, my dear.
Yes, you did. Thank you so much, Eddie.
Hi.
Thank you for welcoming me and so well presenting me. That's fantastic.
Oh, well, it's always a pleasure. Good. It's been quite a long time since we saw each other. A couple of years, actually, ago.
Oh, yeah. A lot of things happened, right?
A lot of things happened in that time. Yes, for me as well as for you. But it's always good to touch base with each other. It seems like every couple of years we seem to cross paths with new projects and new ideas, new lifestyles. And so it's good to talk to you again. I know that you don't have a whole lot of time, but I want to get as much out of you as I can because you're so multi-talented with the things that you're doing. And every time I talk to you, there's something else added to the list. But tell my listeners a little bit about you and just your background and how you got started, and we'll go from there.
How to do that in a nutshell. So I was always different, and probably many of your people who are listening to this could actually say something about themselves, that they feel always different, or there is something wrong with the world and they don't quite fit in. Some of them at least, if not everyone. So I was that person. So I had extraordinary events in my life that were happening to me, and I completely didn't know what to do about it. So I just wanted to be a dancer, an artist, make money like everybody else, have some stability. And every time I went for creative workshops, psychological, paranormal, I was jumping. So it was feeling like I'm jumping from one stone to another while they're sinking in the water. And everybody was interested in that process, just not me. So that was the time when I started to do the best what I could from my so-called that time miserable situation. Because everybody around had everything that I wanted to have. So they had love, they had money, they were successful artistically, and I had nothing. And that's more or less like I landed in the Netherlands, sleeping on the floor. So that's why I started to write. Because I was sleeping on my own clothes. And in these moments when you can find inspiration and go on and make something beautiful out of something very ugly or very depressing, we call it, Eddie, we call it art, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's it.
So that's how it started. So I always was experiencing a lot of dreams, a lot of things that were something that you don't want to have because you want to live your life. You don't want to be stuck in internal processes, psychology, predictions, feeling other people. Because some people can think like, okay, they can go crazy because at the end of the day, they don't know if they perceive their own thoughts or emotions, or they are in the field of other people. So, of course, I started to write about it. And everything I'm doing, painting, it's coming from my deepest self, and I have no idea what's going to come out of it. But when it's done, then I understand more about myself. So I actually was trying to understand myself first. I could not be in the world first before I started to maybe, I don't know if you can say it like that. If you do understand yourself, what you are going through, you probably can understand the rest of the world and help them, if it's such a need, of course.
Okay. Tell me a little bit more about your book, because you wrote a book that's part of the Oracle series, right?
Yeah. Till this very moment, I have no idea what category it is, because some people say it's peculiar. It's something based on the some of the situations I went through in the Netherlands. It's 9 books in that series, and part of that book is the extraordinary that happens to me. So sort of things like when you have nothing, really, really nothing, and people say, okay, you have to pray. And I say, yeah, pray, come on. And then I was learning for the first time, what does it mean to send your intention in the universe into something like higher being or higher intelligence, that there is something out there, or maybe it's just your soul. And I didn't quite understand what that could be. But I describe that on every possible level in my personal journey there, how that is even possible. So if you, for example, have dreams about your past incarnations and you cannot verify them, you can get glimpses in reality of what fits. And other people, if they dream, they can verify with you. So you get just one puzzle to another of the information. And if you find the people that are similar to you, in the Oracle series, Jasmine wasn't finding those people. Everybody were different, almost. It was very rare. She was finding some on the way, but most of the people were not perceiving what she was perceiving, not seeing, for example, colors, auras of people. When you perceive someone else's subconsciousness, people don't have that realization. It comes later. So you can predict what they're going to say, you can predict a lot of things, but they can deny it. They can deny it because they are not connected yet, those parts. So part of that oracle is paranormal that was happening, and about some of the miracles, I would say, of our life. For example, when main character Jasmine was indeed praying for that apartment because she couldn't pay it anymore. She could say like, oh God, if you want me to stay in the Netherlands, I just need a safe place to live. And all I can do is water plants for someone else. And believe it or not, but it happened. Some minutes later, called director of international school and offered exactly that. Hey, I'm leaving to Germany, whatever, and you can stay in my place and we talk later about your jobs opportunities. But could you just water my plants? So yeah, that's exactly what happened. Yeah.
That's quite a story. I know that you're a very good dancer because that's how we know each other.
I don't know that.
Well, you're a very good dancer because we worked together many years ago when we were both in our youngsters.
But thank you for a compliment.
Yeah, so I've also seen some of your instruction videos that you've done with your salsa dancing, which is something which is lately I think that you've been doing a lot of as well. Are you doing more of that or less of the dancing now? Because you've got such a multi-plate of different things, the dancing, the writing, the recording, because you're also singing from time to time. There's so many things going on.
There is a challenge. There is a challenge there because you can easily disperse yourself and none of us can do everything at the same time. And I also, I know it looks like that, but it's like you're going and moving from project to project. So there's a long months when I don't paint at all. But then there is this sudden feeling, a calling, how you say, and you sit exactly to that. And the same happens with other, like with the songs. You have time when you just write, when it just flows, you are running on that inspiration and you do that. So what I'm doing every day, more or less, is definitely writing. But other is from time to time. And of course, we had we had a world situation now, so the dancing is less, but I'm keep on going.
Okay.
With dancing is a must. Yeah, it's like, when you move, you are connecting to yourself. When you sing, you know that very well. You are connecting with yourself.
Well, not only with yourself, you're connecting with others as well when you're performing. So it's a way,
Yeah.
it's a beautiful way to express yourself,
It's a huge thing. Yeah. But you understand that probably really in a great way, because anytime I was trying to give up on one of those things I'm doing, so I was trying to give up many times on singing, because particularly I don't think I'm a good singer and I don't practice every day, but every now and then I had dreams where in those dreams always there is a shaman, and shaman is saying that if I'm not going to sing, he's going to kill me.
Do you want to elaborate a little bit more for my listeners?
It's sort of from process-oriented psychology and from shamanism. When you are ignoring one part of who you are, of your soul, your essence, this essence will sabotage you in life or will bring you sickness. And I had maybe 2 months ago a case where I was really scared about my health. And I went to the doctor and I was in such a panic that I could not stand to queue with, I don't know, maybe around 70 people, because that was such a good doctor that he was taking everybody until the patients were.
Okay.
So I knew he's good, and there was a lot of people, and I was in such a panic, and I was queuing there. And suddenly I had this voice within me like, start humming. If you're not going to start humming, you're going to go in full mode of panic. And I started to hum. And the lady that was a nurse there, she said, oh, you can go to that green room. You can go and sing there. And I sang there I don't know, for 2 hours. And finally, the room was empty, and the doctor called me, come on, you bird, come over here now.
Okay. All right.
So that was really good. Because if we follow, the conclusion is, if we follow our dreams, we are following our deepest portions of ourselves, and we can heal. We can not only heal, we can follow the process, and we probably can also heal other people or environment around us. It's incredible how we influence one another.
Yeah, well, I that's part of the power of attraction, I think, as well, and the belief that, believing in your inner self as well as your outer self, how to trigger. If you listen to your body, it basically tells you what it needs. At least that's my experience.
Yeah, and that's the easiest way and the hardest way. Yeah.
Getting back to one of the other things that I know you're busy with, you have your own YouTube channel, and you're doing your shows not only in English but also in Polish as well. Can you tell my audience a little bit about that?
Sure. That actually wasn't something I planned, because I have so much on my plate that I wasn't into thinking even about developing my YouTube channel, but it was there, just like other social media we have for years. Nothing happens. Every now and then we post something, but maybe that was also the time, this world situation challenges us into doing something even new that we never imagined. And I never imagined that people actually were interested not only in my singing, dancing, or whatever artistically I'm doing, because I was thinking okay, I'm going to invite guests, because what I'm going to tell those people? And suddenly they started to ask me questions. Could you elaborate more about relationships, about dreams, how to dream lucidly, how to listen to yourself, how to get connected? So these are more or less topics of my channel. Self-realization, paranormal aspect, but of course, one of my favorite topics are conspiracy.
Okay.
And I love that, because it challenges also our imagination, how far we can go. And also it is very inspiring for my books, but also social interesting concepts like where are we going as a humankind? What about those artificial intelligence? Is it really good to have a smart house? Or the smart house will kill you eventually, all these questions about how it can be best and worse. Like, how do we find a middle ground? Yeah. So this is more or less something, what I'm doing right now on my YouTube channel. Yeah.
It's quite interesting, some of the things that you're talking about. It gets pretty deep at times.
Yeah, I know.
I know you.
I know. Very deep.
Yeah. So, and I know that I'm coming on one of your shows, so we'll have a very deep conversation.
Oh, yes. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah.
Before I ask you the last question, you're also doing tarot cards. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. Yeah, I actually did a whole video about it because tarot is a taboo. Still, for a lot of people, it's taboo. Taken as something evil, something you shouldn't do, you shouldn't touch, especially, Poland is a very Catholic country. So a lot of people are saying that this is wrong, this is bad. And I digged into history of tarot. And every pope to the certain, I think even now, but it's hidden, they were doing tarot. Mm-hmm. So later on in history, it was completely changed by, of course, the magician, Mr. Crowley, that created the cards that were really not friendly. And some of the cards we definitely should not touch because it's like everything, it's the tool, it's the energy. So it depends on the moral and ethics of the person who's reading cards and what kind of set is that. Mm-hmm. Because the cards will show you first the mirror who you are. So if you're not ready for it, do not touch it.
Okay. My topic for this show is enthusiasm. So I'd like to know what enthusiasm means for you.
My first words that comes to my mind is inspiration. It's like living your life in a very inspiring way. And it doesn't mean that you have to be joyous all the time. It doesn't mean that you have to be hyper all the time. But it's lightly or easily going in between different roles in life, like tuning into yourself more. So taking the challenges, because it's not about ignoring reality, but taking whatever you have there, the material that is happening to you every day, and shape it in a way that you will be satisfied with your creation. That's what I would think. And quickly now, of course, we can elaborate for another hour probably, okay. But we will continue maybe. Yeah.
Okay. Once again, like I said, you have this plate of a variety of things that you're doing in your life, which of course I think keeps you very enthusiastic each and every day, because it's like with you, it's like tossing the dice. You don't know what number it's going to really land on. And it feels like that sometimes. Yeah. But it takes some discipline because it's enthusiasm, but when you are inspired to do something, for some people it's like on the border of being obsessed with something, because you are not going to let it go before it's going to be done. You just have it in mind and you won't let go until it's done the way you want it. So I think only when you are enthusiastic, you are able to finish it, right? Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on, and I know we could go on for hours talking about these things.
I thank you so much for the invitation. That was really nice and spontaneous.
Okay, and thank you for coming on the show. Appreciate it very much. And keep busy.
Thank you.
This is My Positive Podcast with Eddie C. Ladies and gentlemen, my next guest is we go back to the time when we were 6 or 7 years old, coming originally from Gary, Indiana. He's now currently an owner of 24 Burger King restaurants in Southeast Florida. He was a fantastic student in school, and we were part of a sort of a club. It's like we were like in between the smartest and the ones that didn't give a care, but we cared about everything, and we have a lot of fun. And it's so great to be in touch with him. Please welcome my next guest, Mr. Bill Thompson. How you doing, buddy?
Eddie, thank you very much. I'm doing well, man. It's a pleasure, first of all, reconnecting with you. And I want to say on the start of this interview, when I say we, all of your friends and relatives and Gary, we're so proud of the work that you've done and excited. And we use you in conversations. Probably people think we know you better than what we do because we pretend like we do. So we're proud of you. And thank you for spending a little time with me today.
Oh, man, that's I really appreciate it, brother. I really appreciate it, you know. Well, listen, let's get right into the questions, actually, because I know we've got a lot to talk about after so many years, you know. Last time we saw each other, it was graduation.
Yes.
1974.
Right. Now, you remember the prom date we went on together. You drove.
Right.
Do you remember that?
I remember that.
Yeah, okay. All right. Now, I won't say much because my wife would end up probably saying, are you reminiscing? No, I'm not, because she's the best thing that ever happened to me. Right. But yeah, we did share that evening together.
That was a lot of fun, man. It was a lot of fun.
Yes, it was. I think it was a Monte Carlo that you were driving.
That's right.
Wasn't
it? A blue Monte Carlo, so with a Landau roof. Yep, that's right.
Yeah, because my red station wagon wasn't going to quite cut it for a prom date, I don't think.
But we had a great time, man. We had a great time.
Yes, we did.
All right, buddy. So listen, I know a lot about you, but can you tell my listeners something about your background, you know, and everything?
Love to.
Okay.
Love to. Yes, I was born and raised in Gary, Indiana, just like Eddie was. Had two wonderful parents. That my dad worked in the steel mills and actually worked two jobs for 30 years to keep my mom at home. Wonderful parents, 5 siblings, all in the Gary area. And we got a chance to move to the west side of Gary when I think I was 6 years old. And that's when I first met you, Eddie.
Right.
We attended Ivanhoe Elementary School. And
right.
I know your mom was a teacher there, and kind of went through the Gary public school system together, all the way from Ivanhoe to Edison to West Side. And we kept a very strong friendship all the way through.
Absolutely.
After high school, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No.
Okay. After high school, that's when we parted ways. And as I said earlier to Eddie off the record here, how proud we are, when I say we, the city of Gary, of the accomplishments that Eddie has had. And people often talk about Gary, Indiana, the Jackson 5, Denise Williams, but we talk about Eddie C. So I want the listeners to know that. We want the listeners to know that. But yeah, so we had some fun times together in high school. And just for the listening audience, Eddie and I attended prom together, not together, but we each had dates. But I had a 1967 Ford Red station wagon, and Eddie said that wouldn't meet his standards, so he drove the brand new Monte Carlo that he had. So it probably was better because Monte Carlo did make it through the trip. Things like it might have broke down.
Right. Oh, wow, man.
After high school, attended Franklin College in Franklin, Indiana. I was fortunate and blessed to get an academic scholarship there. And as Eddie said, we were in that group that we weren't great students, but we weren't bad. But I was blessed enough to get an academic scholarship there and attended Franklin College for 4 years, finishing with a degree in history and religion. Actually, I had pursued the thought of going to theological school after that, but I think that was my calling, not necessarily God. So I was redirected. But I fell in love with actually the restaurant side of the business, even at early age. And not so much restaurants, but I think my sophomore year in high school, I went to work for A&P Grocery Store. And you probably remember those, Eddie, in the Gary area.
Yeah, I remember the A&P Grocery Stores, yeah.
A&P Grocery Store in Gary, Indiana, and worked there all the way up until graduating high school. And was fortunate enough to get an academic scholarship to Franklin College. And my first day at Franklin College, I decided that, hey, I needed spending money. So I went over to the school cafeteria and met the manager. His name was Mike Longo. And I asked Mr. Longo, I said, hey, is there anything I can do? And he said, yeah, you can wash dishes 3 or 4 days a week and make some extra money. So I did that starting my first day. And actually, that's when I fell in love with the restaurant business. As weird as that might sound.
All right. You really started at the bottom, as they say.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Washing dishes. And there's nothing more humiliating than to have your friends know that you're in the dish room. And if you remember the days where you would stack cups and mashed potatoes and you would stack trays on top just to make my job difficult.
Right.
Look, really, it did. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it because I knew at the end of the week, I would get roughly about $50 or $60 a week. Now, back in the 70s, that was a lot of money.
It was a lot of money back then.
And I would be able to go out to Burger King, KFC, and McDonald's, and they're sitting in there eating dorm food. So I said, hey, that's all right. I'll keep washing dishes.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, man. Nothing wrong with that. And so kind of like build your way up to where you are.
Right. So actually it started in college. So and I didn't focus as hard as I should on academics. My sophomore year, believe it or not, I became head of the dish room at Franklin College.
Oh, wow.
My junior year, I became a student cook. And my senior year, I became a student manager.
Wow.
And I was still in college. And after finishing school, Mike Longo was still the food service director. He said, Bill, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I don't know. I said, possibility of going back to Gary and becoming a school teacher. And my sister, which you might remember, Jimmy Lynn Thompson, now Sanders, she was a school teacher. And Mike asked me, he said, well, how much would you be making? And at the time, I think Jimmy was making about $8,000 a year. And he said, well, Bill, he said, if you started in our management program after you finish school here, you would start out at $12,000 a year. I said, hey, sign me up. And actually grew in that company. I was with the company for about 3 years and became a food service manager at Calvin College in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Mm-hmm. And then actually became food service director at Marion College in Indianapolis, Indiana. So I stayed in the college feeding for probably about 4 years. And after that, I left and worked for several companies that you might be familiar with and your listening audience might be. I worked for Denny's restaurant, actually in the Chicagoland area. Interesting stories there, I'll tell you off the record. It can be kind of crazy at nights after the bar is closed. But worked for Denny's and then actually worked for Old Country Buffet. And then I became an employee of Burger King Corporation, just in the management position, and really grew my career at Burger King as a corporate employee, and worked with them for probably about 18 years. Started out as a district manager, then became a regional manager, training manager, and then moving quite far ahead, and we can close in the gap. 2006, my wife and myself decided that we wanted to no longer be held hostage by the corporate environment, and we wanted to become individual owners. So in 2006, we were blessed, and I do have a partner. We were blessed to purchase 8 restaurants in Jacksonville, Florida. And since 2006, we've grown that from 8 restaurants to 24 restaurants.
Wow, that's quite a lot. That's a lot of Burger Kings, man.
That's a lot of Burger Kings, a lot of work, but I have to give credit to so many people that are currently on my team that without them, we would not be successful. I try to teach and I do a lot of talking to young managers and people that's interested in business. It's not about how good you are, but it's about how much your people respect you, mm-hmm. and how much they are willing to believe in what you stand for. And then you'll be able to run a successful business, whether or not it's Burger King, whether or not it's Wendy's, whether or not it's Avon, or whether or not it's working in a school system. If you develop a team, and if you treat your team fairly, and if you treat your team the way you want to be treated, you'll be successful.
How did you end up in Florida?
So I was a franchise business leader in Columbus, Ohio, where I was the liaison between Burger King corporate and the franchise community. I had, I think at the time, probably about 13 franchise groups that I oversaw, and I was more of as a consultant.
Okay.
Well, roughly, probably back in probably 1999, me and my wife had always talked about we would love to become franchisees, independent owners, so we could control our destiny.
How did you meet your wife? Because that's a very important part.
Oh, I left off such an important part. So this is, if she was here, she would probably tell me that I'm not telling the complete story, but I'll tell it the way I remember it. I was working at Denny's restaurant in Benton Harbor, Michigan. And this was in 1996, okay. 97. And I was working at a Denny's, and there was a Fashion Bug. I don't know if you remember that clothing store. It's a clothing store. Fashion Bug was right in front of the Denny's restaurant. And I was walking out one day and I saw this beautiful lady. just knocked me off my feet. And she was coming out of the Fashion Bug. So I went over to Fashion Bug. Being from Gary, we didn't understand the word no. So I invited her. Right? You know, Eddie.
Yeah.
I invited her to lunch, and she respectfully declined. But eventually, she gave way to my being persistent, and we went out, and we were married in 1999. Wow. So just a blessing. It's been a great partner. She currently, which I put in a little plug for her and ask your listening audience to stay tuned. She's starting a business now. It's in the restaurant industry. It's called Weekend Soul Sister Weekend Chef.
Oh, wow. That's great, man. That's really great. And you've got 2 sons as well, right?
Yeah, I do. I have 2 wonderful sons. My oldest is in the United States Air Force. He's been in for 10 years now. He's stationed right now in South Korea. And our baby boy, Justin, who's 29, William's 30, he lives here in Jacksonville. And he's doing well. And hopefully one day he'll get into the business and allow me and Annie to completely retire and sit back and let him work hard.
All right, man. That's great. Then you guys can take a trip over to Europe and come visit me.
Well, we got to do that. We were in Paris 3 years ago. It was my wife's, and my wife is a little bit younger than I am, but it was her 50th birthday. Mm-hmm. So she wanted to go to Paris. We were in Paris for a week and really enjoyed it there. Getting ready to go to Saudi Arabia, I think, in a couple of years. So, but we'll definitely get over to see you. We'll definitely make that a plan to do that.
Oh, yeah, definitely, man. It would be nice to hook up the whole GI reunion here.
Oh, it would be. It would be Ronald Bush and Bryce. And I heard Bryce's session last week. Excellent job. I got to reconnect with you. Yes, right. It would be. Well, we got our 50th anniversary. 50th high school reunion coming up. Maybe we can get you back to the States here.
Hopefully, I can make it there, man. That's the plan. That's the plan. Is to try to make the 50th. That would be wonderful.
Right.
Okay. Well, so now you're now your main thing is the Burger King franchises that you have, right?
Correct. Yeah, we have currently 24 restaurants, roughly around 600 team members. And I don't call them employees, team members, because they are part of our team. And without them, we would not be where we are today. And so thankful to have a great group of people working with me, not for me, but working with me. So really blessed in that avenue.
How do you manage that, man? That's a lot of people.
Yeah, it's we call it single line accountability. Obviously, I have a great support team. Directly up under me, I have a director of operations who oversees all of the operational pieces of the business. And up underneath our director of operations, we have 5 district managers. Each district managers oversee 5 to 6 restaurants. And then each restaurant has a general manager.
Okay.
And then each general manager in their restaurant has 3 to 4 managers. And then roughly each Burger King will require anywhere from 25 to 30 team members to run a successful operation.
Wow.
Then we have a maintenance team, and then I have a support office in Miami where we have our HR department, our accounts payable department. I have CFO, chief financial officer, who keeps me in line and keeps me from getting in trouble with the government and paying bills on time and having a little bit left over at the end.
You've had a wonderful career, man, and I'm also proud of you, man, and I'm sure a lot of folks in Gary are very proud of you as well, because it's so wonderful if you think about how the town has gone down in the last years, and it's like a ghost town.
Yes, it is. It's sad that we've been able to, and I don't know, we've been able to send some resources back to Gary over the last 10 years, helping out with scholarships, schools. So, we do as much as we can from afar. But, I just keep that city in our prayers, and hopefully that it could rebound, because people now that know Gary for what it is today, they don't understand how wonderful of a place it was when we were growing up. Not only people like your parents, but we just had true leaders and true people that understood how important the younger generation was, and they invested in us. And that's why we are where we are today.
Oh, that's also wonderful. That's also wonderful to hear, man, that you guys are doing something like that. I've got one more question for you, which is based on our theme for this particular show. and that's enthusiasm. So I'm sure you have a very, very nice answer to give me when I'm going to ask you, what does enthusiasm mean for you?
And I can talk on this all day, Eddie, but I do like to kind of phrase it into a statement that really sums up enthusiasm to me. Enthusiasm is a mindset that no matter what you encounter each day, you cherish and embrace the opportunity to make a positive impact on people's lives. So many times we allow setbacks to make us bitter. And instead of embracing that setback, learn from it and say, hey, this is a great learning experience.
Absolutely.
So many times in life, we lose our enthusiasm in relationships and business relationships and personal relationships because someone let us down. Try to find a positive in that person so you can build around the positive moments versus the negative moments. Being enthusiastic, everything. I have a strong walk with Christ. Even though things haven't always been picture perfect for me, I never gave up on the fact that Jesus Christ loved me enough that he allowed me to come and spend some time on this place called Earth. And I'm enthused about that. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the possibilities. When I think about my father, who was born, my grandfather was actually born at the end of slavery. And the fact that he was a positive person. And my grandfather, before he died, he was a bricklayer and he owned his own company. And he was enthused about it. So never let the past or never let anyone take that enthusiasm from you, because if you do, they're taking away your gift and they're taking away your joy. And I refuse to let anyone do that.
All right. Well, on those words, my brother, I'd like to thank you so much for coming on. It's great to see you after such a long time.
Yes,
and
yes.
I'm sure my listeners will be uplifted by enthusiasm after hearing this story, man. I
hope so. And I appreciate it. And again, and I say in all sincerity, we're so very proud of you. Continue to spread the good news over there through your music and let people know how proud we are of you as being our son. You're the son of Gary, Indiana, and we so much appreciate you.
Oh man, that's really nice. Very nice for you to say, buddy. I really appreciate that. All right. Well, listen, you take care. Keep that franchise growing. And
I will.
And have you ever thought about expanding over to Europe?
Well, Burger King is very big in Europe, and I'm sure you're probably familiar with them. Probably not in this lifetime, but if things continue to go well for you and you're willing to maybe go 50-50 on me, we'll start something over there. How about that?
Okay.
I'm letting your listening audience, we're putting the pressure back on you.
Well, I got a special ginger drink that I want to talk to you about. We'll talk about that.
We definitely want to talk about that. Absolutely.
All right, buddy. And listen, a lot of love to you. And
Thank you. Same to you.
And keep doing the wonderful things you're doing, bro.
Thank you very much.
This is MPP, and I'm Eddie C. Well, I hope you enjoyed my three guests like I do on every show. It's so nice to see how enthusiastic they are, coming from different backgrounds, different lifestyles. And you know what? If you wake up in the morning enthusiastic, and then you go to bed enthusiastic, think about how many people you gave positive energy to that day. And on those notes, here's my quote. Enthusiasm. Waking up each day with a good feeling about yourself and looking forward to prosperous days. Seeing that no dream is unachievable if you put your positive energy and belief in what you want in your life. Seeing any pitfalls only as small delays and learning experiences, taking you closer to your goals. That gut feeling inside that tells you, I got this, in the most enthusiastic way. Well, that's it for this show, ladies and gentlemen. But before I go, I'd like to thank Jeroen Breider, Joanna Pilatowicz, and Bill Thompson for coming on, sharing their stories, and telling us what enthusiasm means to them. And remember, when you wake up in the morning, wake up enthusiastic, because you never know what the day is going to bring. Until next time, you can find me on all platforms like Spotify, Android, and Apple. On Facebook, look for My Positive Podcast, and my website is mypositivepodcast.com. You can also contact me via my website or Facebook. A very special thanks to my technical producer, Iswan. This show is a production by Antwerp Podcast Service. My name is Eddie C., and this was MPP, My Positive Podcast. Tune in next week and stay positive.